Well, Gotham City is still reeling from the effects of one of TV's best shows to hit the airwaves this year. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Nerd Initiative special HBO's The Penguin finale reactions. My name is Ken M. You know me as the host of the ODPH podcast. I'm also Nerd Initiative editor in chief. And joining me for this special occasion is a panel that knows a lot about the show, has been raving about it for weeks on Nerd Initiative. First and foremost, joining us, you've been reading her step-by-step reviews of each episode on nerdinitiative.com weekly. It is the one and only Janelle. Janelle, what is going on?
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to talk the finale and also just the entire series of The Penguin.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And joining us as well, you know him as one third of the Trios Tag Team Champions on Wrestling Night Live, but he is also a Gotham aficionado when it comes to this show. It is Nick Cobblepot representing Wrestling Night Live. Nick, what's going on?
Listen, much like a penguin would dive into the sea, I'm ready to dive into the season finale.
Oh, yeah. Like there is a lot to process for this. So chat, super chat, wherever you're watching us from, make sure you're getting active in there. We definitely want everybody's opinions. As you see in the ticker below, we are talking spoilers of this episode and series. So if you haven't watched yet, you have been fair warned, but there's a lot to break down. So let's go with just an overall statement on the finale, starting with Janelle.
I loved it. I mean, I think, especially even just talking about the whole entire series, I think diving into character development and just really caring about these characters and wanting to see them to go forward. What were their intentions? How do they react to things? Like, I've really enjoyed the entire season of just diving more and more and more. And especially Colin Farrell is amazing as the Penguin. He is I've never really seen a performance like this. Just him, even just the prosthetics that he has on his face and just his entire body. I'm sure I'm going to hear Emmy nomination something in the next couple of and in the next couple of months.
There's no way you can't. There's going to be multiple ones for this one. Rest assured. Nick, how about you?
I mean, Janelle just absolutely just hit the nail on the head. We took a character that was kind of cool in a movie and we just expanded this whole little mini universe. And that's a tough task because you're introducing new characters that, weren't a part of the movie. And if you're just a movie lover and like, I don't care about the TV shows, it's tough to get people to buy in. But the performances from everyone involved were just absolutely phenomenal. And there's so much to unpack here. I think we just got to dive into it, Ken.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think there's so much that we need to get in for this and definitely need to make happen because honestly, when you start thinking about how this show kicks in, there's a lot to process. And to catch everybody up to speed, Oswald Cobblepot is working his way through the crime ranks of a Gotham City that's still repairing itself from the events of 2022's Batman film by Matt Reeves. Gotham is underwater, recovering from the flood, and there is a power vacuum going on. And with this, the Falcones and Maronis are definitely plotting against each other. And Oswald is working his way up through the ranks until one ill-timed shot at him sets him off and thus causes a domino effect, which literally causes an all-out war in the streets of Gotham. Let alone the one and only Colin Farrell, whose performance in this entire show, like, let's talk about this for a sec, really elevated a character that we did not know what we were going to expect in this show running by himself. And then let alone what we got from this, because honestly, I was not expecting this to be as well as it was. And then let alone we get what we get here. I mean, Janelle, we'll start with you. What was your take on Colin's performance overall this season?
I loved him. I think I've never seen a limited series that really captivates somebody. Just their personality, the way that they talk, the way that they walk, like, and again, like what you said, like, it's a character that we really didn't know anything even about. The Batman, he only had like maybe 10 minutes of screen time from the Batman, and to have this time of eight-ish hours like to spend in this world, and for the entire team behind the Penguin to give Colin Farrell like this opportunity to give more space to Oz in this Gotham world, that is incredible. And the writing, the directing, everything is incredible. So like I mentioned before, I'm not going to be surprised if I hear Emmy buzz around all of it, especially a couple of the episodes. Like my favorites, episode 4, and then also my favorite episode is, well, that, yeah, 4, 1, and then this one is actually one of my favorites as well.
Yeah. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, we took a character, one of the more iconic Batman villains, and you stick Colin Farrell in it, who is a, A-class actor, and you kind of just see what happens. There was a good, interesting starting point within the Batman. You have a guy that's, a mid-level, gangster within, a crime syndicate, and it's an easy story to buy into. Hey, this guy's, he's a C player and he wants to be an A player. So what do you got to do? So it's a pretty basic type, mob story we've seen time and time again play out. But in the Batman universe, though, we've typically focused on some of the more, extravagant villains, and just the regular crime stuff hasn't really had its time. And for Matt Reeves' universe, it kind of makes a lot of sense. He's doing something really gritty and really kind of street level. So to see Colin Farrell, I think to get people to buy in, it was all on him. And I think that allowed the rest of the supporting team to kind of just relax and say, okay, we're just going to go out there and do our part and just be, do our part to be amazing. And, I think that worked really well here. We saw some really strong performances, not just from him, from everyone around him. But he was the key. He was the key to get this all going and crushed it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's no question about that. I love how you brought up the supporting cast, because I think we had a breakout character really win over the hearts of everybody who watched the show. And one that, when we get into the spoiler talk of the finale, we have a lot to break down. But Vic Aguilar, played by Renzi Felice, I mean, what can we say about his performance as the ill-timed sidekick on the rise to power of Oswald Cobblepot? Janelle, I mean, what can you say about his performance this season?
I mean, Renzi did a fantastic job. I don't know if you guys ever saw some of the interviews that he was doing, even like outside of the Penguin press. People were saying like, "Oh, I wish he was younger because he could have definitely been a good Miles Morales over in the MCU." He is fantastic. First of all, just the character Victor, like, we know that he had like the stuttering problem. We know that like, his family, unfortunately, with the flooding and everything, like that was unfortunate. But he really cared about Oz and making sure that Oz was okay. Like he was always going and trying to make sure he was fine and himself is fine. And then he had to step up and do things, that we'll talk about it, that was outside of what I thought he was going to do. But overall, he was a fantastic addition to Oz. He is definitely, he sees his perspective, and that was amazing to see as well. So I really enjoyed Renzi's, process on how he should have Victor act and also speak and interact with Oz. So that was amazing.
Yeah. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, so this show, it seems like, I mean, there's not a definitive timeline, but it seems to play out over the course of a handful of months. And to see the growth of this character from the beginning, where, he's getting involved with the wrong people and he doesn't do the best job of that either. And then to see in this final episode him exuding such confidence and such loyalty to it really shows how strong of a performance we have here, because he took a character that you could have done really anything you wanted with, and he absolutely owned it. He put on a performance that just got you to totally buy into it. He's the kid that's came from nothing. He's lost everything, and he grew into this, terrible person. I mean, at the end of the day, he is a terrible person. He's doing terrible things. He's working for a crime family, but I mean, you fell in love with him. He was loyal to, throughout, and just the performance, just seeing him exude that confidence at the end was really like, wow, he's totally come into his own.
Yeah, I mean, that was something that, as the course of the show went on, you really saw the growth in Renzi's performance. And like I say, taking a character that was really lost as we first saw him in episode 1 to one that really thought he found a home in Oz and his world. As messed up as it is, he still found a way, because as we saw throughout the course of the show, He lost his family to the actions of the Riddler and Batman. He had no direction, and now he was given one. And even though he had chances to leave Oz, he stayed loyal to somebody who gave him an opportunity, albeit though in very not so traditional ways. You know, as we first met them, but still Wanda being his right hand man when he needed one, especially when the forces around him were really coming into play. And I will say this: I think the MVP of this show, who when once she made her way onto the screen, absolutely stole it, and especially gave us one of the best episodes of the year in her origin story, and that is one Sophia Falcone, aka Sophia Gigante, played by the one and only Kristen Milotti. I mean, what can you say about her performance, Janelle?
Oh man, I love, like I mentioned before, I love episode 4, the Arkham episode. This actress is just, I didn't know anything about her,
Hmm.
and the fact that she was able to just jump into Sophia, like, it was amazing to see. And also, like, you really felt for her. She really felt like she wanted to prove herself in the Falcone family, and she wanted to get, justice, for her brother and everything. Like, there was so many things. And of course, her relationship with Dr. Julian, I thought was interesting as well, because I was like, okay, this is new. This is, and I'm a big fan of the actor as well, Dr. Julian, Theo Rossi
You know,
from,
Theo Rossi, yeah.
yeah, because I saw him in Sons of Anarchy, one of my like one of the good characters that I like. So I really enjoyed seeing Sophia's journey of just, again, trying to find her power, find her own in this family that is so huge. And, there's revelations throughout the series that she kind of finds out. And then, especially in this finale episode, I'm really just enjoyed seeing where she kind of ended up. So, Anna, again, Emmy, something for Kristen Milioti.
Yeah,
Something.
I agree 100% on that. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, the rise, the fall, and the rise again of this character. I mean, we saw her at so many different points in her life, at totally different places. I mean, she was completely broken, and then she found herself again, and then she found that motivation and just found everything, within herself to say, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to, march to the beat of my own drum. I'm going to, in some ways, a little Joker like, I'm going to scorch the earth. I'm going to remove all these terrible things from my life that have held me back. It was incredibly powerful and incredibly impressive. And to see where she's at now was also really cool.
Yeah. I really think that her character showed the most evolution throughout the series, and really after her origin story, which I mean was so powerful and so intense that you had this sympathy for her that you didn't have before, and then to see where she goes is like you understand her motives as twisted as they are, but it was really about her redeeming herself and finding her inner peace, albeit though at the expense of Oz and the drastic attacks that she did on her and his family too, because obviously the key to Oz this entire season has been his mother, and definitely a lot of issues going on here with Francis Cobb, played by Deidre O'Connell, who I mean, absolutely phenomenal performance this season. And I will say, I mean, you would think about where Oz is as this cold-hearted businessman. You see this unfold, and I mean, Janelle, talk about their relationship.
I mean, well, their relationship, I knew, I had an inkling from the beginning of the series that we were going to explore. I know from the comics, Oz and his mother have a very weird relationship. So I knew that we were going to touch a little bit about that, but I really like that they made it a little bit different in the Penguin series than versus like the comics. Um, for Deidre O'Connell, fantastic. She really definitely did her research on dementia and, people who have memory problems and stuff. And hopefully you guys saw the end credits that at the end of it, they always said, like, you can find out more information about aging and
Mhm.
things like that. Um, and I just really liked her portrayal of Frances. She really loved her child, Oz, but she knew what he is and what he was, and even as a child. So, and I actually was talking to my mom about this episode, and she was saying the same thing, like that a mother's love is just different, and especially in this series, it's explored. Oz really cared for his mom and really loved his mom, but also she knew who he was and knows what he will, what he turned out to be, even from a child to an adult. So it just, and uh, Sophia tried to explore that, throughout that conversation of just like figuring out like, well, where did this come from? You raised quote unquote a villain,
Mhm.
So definitely was interested in that whole concept and conversation.
Yeah. Nick, how about you?
This one's tough to talk about spoiler free because what we saw in this episode was just really just sums everything up for that character really well. But overall, her performance was fantastic. To take a character that is suffering from some sort of a memory loss, illness, disease, and to be able to sprinkle that in without so there's moments of clarity and then there's moments of just being completely being lost. And Oz, being the only connecting factor, someone that we know she's got an issue with one way or another.
Hmm.
It was an amazing performance, and those are your four main people that we just broke them all down. And like I said at the beginning, we had Colin Farrell was the only one we knew, and then you sprinkled in these other three people, and they just absolutely killed it. And it absolutely made this series. It would not have worked without these people putting in this strong performance. All four of them needed it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think those were the four pillars of this show that really took this and really elevated from something that we weren't sure what we were going to get. I mean, I know early on there was kind of some confusing buzz about this, about what we were going to expect. And obviously knowing how grounded and dark and brooding the Matt Reeves film was, to spin it off, and especially with a character that we know from the comics, we know from TV, we know from animation, can be taken in a lot of different contexts. But this one really echoed a lot what we see in the more recent comic runs. And to see how Colin Farrell really portrayed him as just an average gangster, but one that was more multi-layered than we thought, I thought really elevated. And especially when he's going up against the different crime families, and especially the one that, I mean, wasn't on the show that much, but I really thought stood out whenever he was on screen. And that was Salvador Moroni, played by Clancy Brown. And to see those two go against each other on screen, I really thought elevated what Colin's Penguin was trying to do, because it was really for him being about self-discovery. Like, now where do I go? Because everything he's known working for the Falcones completely went up in smoke. And now he's in this weird state of flux that, as we see his character go on, you really get a sense of he's trying to find a direction. And especially the direction he goes in does not go completely as planned, because he does start a crime war in Gotham. And it ultimately leads into him rising through the ranks and him thinking he's now become the king of Gotham. And sadly, that doesn't happen, because Sophia Falcone does not forget anytime soon. And we're going to just jump right into the finale, because where this has gone is we've seen a lot of back and forth between everybody. Oz set up shop down in the sewer system of Crown Point, and Sophia took the battle right to him, losing Salvador in the process, but having the final word with an explosion going down, blowing up the plant that Oz had so desperately tried building and growing his own empire with. So now we're going to go into the finale. Chat, super chat, wherever you're watching us from, let us know your thoughts about this. We are going to be talking spoilers. So that being said, we're going to start with Nick. What is your thoughts on the finale of The Penguin?
Wow. Wow. I mean, you could have sat there and we could have thrown, darts at a dartboard trying to predict this, and we would have been maybe 25% right. That the stuff that came out of this episode, the world building of Oz, of Gotham, everything. Wow. You took Oz as a character who's clearly just a survivor. He just knows how to survive. And while he's incredibly smart, he's not like the chess player who's 10 moves ahead of you. He's just able to analyze the situation so quickly and just pivot in the right direction. And what he does here in this finale, wow.
Yeah. I mean, that is as simple as you could say, but it covers so much.
Yeah.
Janelle, how about you?
It's a masterclass. I mean, I definitely, as a writer myself, I just love the writing and just like what Nick said, like the world building and just getting that the deeper moments with all of the characters that are in this finale. And I just also I want to say kudos to the pacing as well, because I know
Mhm.
many shows that have limited series, they have a bit of a pacing issue. This one had no problem. It had me captured every second, every minute. I was on the edge of my seat just trying to figure out where we're going to go. And just like what Nick said, like it's so amazing to see how Oz can just look at a situation and get himself out quickly with no hesitation, no nothing, and be able to be okay, And this finale, again, is just wrapped it up in a little bow. And I'm really excited for the future, whatever that the writing team and the directing team, whatever they bring forward, I'm in, whatever they do.
Yeah. I think what they did for this finale is they really set a high bar. And I think for carrying this universe over to the next Batman film, this gave us a nice bridge because we know there's a lot of moving and shaking going on with DC Studios, and super excited about what they're coming out with Creature Commandos later this year. Obviously, Superman next year. So we are going to have to wait a while for Batman 2. But in the meantime, if we're getting quality like this, by all means, take the time and really make sure it's the final product, because this sets such a high bar of acting and giving us a deep, detailed insight into one of Batman's most legendary rogues that I don't think fans really understand until you see him in this kind of context, because this is where he flourishes. It's not with the gimmick umbrellas. It's not with any kind of funny, automobiles. This is him at his finest, where he is the most dangerous because he's the most unpredictable. And you try thinking about like, well, what can he bring to the table? He brings a lot because he's ultimately someone who can adapt on the fly, like we touched upon here. But he's also somebody that gets it and can really take it to a lot of places that some do not want to go. And that's kind of where we start off this episode, because obviously Oz escapes the explosion by ducking into a sewer tunnel that is all too familiar and ties back into how he is responsible for the deaths of his brothers. And to see that Vic comes in and tries saving him with the unified gang front of Gotham. Janelle, when you're seeing this unfold and what Vic is trying to do, what's your reaction to this?
I was really, well, first of all, Victor, I've been scared for this character like the whole season.
Yeah.
I really get really scared when he is talking to the gangsters alone. And as you can see, the guy punched him in the gut and said, like, look, don't talk to us like that. Like, and I was like, Victor, you better know your place. And that's what the guy said. He said, know your place. And I know Victor was really worried about Oz, and hopefully, that he got out, and he wanted him to get out. And again, that loyalty piece is what he has throughout this whole series to Oz. So I was really scared for him, but also I knew that, like, hopefully Victor was smart enough to, go and pursue and see if he's okay. And obviously they were able to reunite.
Yeah. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, for Victor, this is the first time we really see him exude that confidence that's just been building over the past episodes and within the story the past couple of months, where he's really just come into his own. You know, we see that. We see his strong loyalty to his newfound family. But we also, as an audience, and Victor doesn't necessarily learn this, but we see that it's definitely misguided, because here he is and he's putting himself out on the line, and come to find out, listen, you can love Oswald all you want, but we don't care. We're in this still for the money, for the power, for this and that. We're not in it for the people like you are. And in this case, Victor being in it for Oz. So to see that growth of the character, though, and his loyalty to, his learnings from the Penguin, it was heartbreaking, as the story went on.
Yeah, I mean, this was a great scene, but as you see how the story portrays itself, it's ultimately so heartbreaking that Victor is trying his best to save Oz, to save what is now become surprising father figure to him, and he's doing everything he can. But the other street gangs know, like, this is a lost cause. Without him, there's no money. Without no money, there's no sense of loyalty here. And you do see that Vic is met with some opposition, even though Oz does escape a little bit, so to speak. But it doesn't really kind of play out the way it does, because we get this flashback sequence involving Francis and the young Oz too. And how amazing is that performance going on? Because I mean, you think about when you see Oz portraying himself, and you see writer Allen, who steps into this role, captures the mannerisms, and is so detailed in his reactions, especially at such a young age, like really elevating Francis's flashbacks to, when she's having reminiscent about the times when she was having Oz and kind of manipulating him in a little bit. Like, Nick, when you're seeing this take place, what's your reactions?
This was an incredibly powerful way to start the show, because you're getting the full backstory. We got, one half of it in, the previous episodes, but now we're getting the second half, where what actually happened, what happened to, Oz's mom. So come to find out, she put it all together all along. She knew all along what happened. Not 100%, but what, 99% she knew what had happened, So
Yeah.
for me, though, the one thing that I took away from the scene the most, beyond just the performance and the story, was actually Rush being able to help her in her current, state of having, again, some sort of memory related issues. To be able to help her work through that, it clearly shows how strong, of a doctor personality type that he is. And I thought that kind of got lost along the way, of like, hey, he's actually knows what he's doing when it comes to helping people dive into their minds. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, we don't necessarily know now, but we could learn that going forward.
Yeah. Janelle, how about you?
Um, Same thing. I mean, I think it's a telltale of, again, like that writing. And I just think that you know, with Frances, I my heart goes to, out to her, because she really does, like, I guess you could say, like, just really elevates the story, because that's one thing that Oz cared about. And like, it kind of had that fine line of, like, what was he willing to do? What was he willing to do for his mom? And again, that I've been saying it all stream, loyalty, that loyalty aspect of it. So, the writer, Alan, amazing little actor as well. I think he did a fantastic job of just everything, studying how, even probably having a conversation maybe with Colin Farrell about, like, how do you speak this, or how do you do that? Like, and again, it tells to the writing team and directing team to direct him on how he is supposed to approach having a relationship with Francis, as the younger Oz.
Yeah. Like, it just, that performance top to bottom, just that whole sequence of events. It really just gives such a detailed layer to Oz. Because then when we find him captured and being tortured by Sophia and going through kind of this weird storytelling mode, but seeing that his mom is in danger and getting the confession that, or trying to get the confession, I should say, about what Oz did to his younger brothers, and seeing Francis yelling at him saying, "I know what you did, just say it," when they're threatening to cut off her finger, and seeing that play out. But yet Oz never broke. And seeing that, even though his mom was in danger, with all that loyalty going on, I'll start with Nick. When you're seeing that play out, I mean, how do you think that was ultimately going to go?
I mean, defiant till the end, and ultimately it was his mom who broke, and she finally just came out and in such a moment of clarity, just say, "I've known all along," and you could see it in his reactions that he maybe in that moment was kind of finally admitting it, but he never broke. He never broke, but she did. She broke in that scene,
Oh,
and she
completely.
broke him in a way.
Yeah. I mean, Janelle, what do you think?
Same thing. I mean, and it was heartbreaking to see that he was going to go to the length of, that her finger was going to be cut off, because he just couldn't admit it. He couldn't even put the words to it, like, and I really was hoping that maybe he was going to confess, but nothing. And that tells of his heart. That tells of that. And just like what Sophia has said in the episode, that you don't care about anything. You don't care about your own mom, anybody, Victor, anybody. You just care for your own self. So that definitely was a moment of clarity that we know we know who Oz is.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he really just cares about himself. And even, you tell yourself a lie so many times, you start to believe it. And I think that that's where he went. And he just refused to accept that he was at any fault for it, because in his mind, and as we see throughout this entire episode, he's all about impressing his mom to whatever lengths he does. And even if that means like doing the heinous things he did, he still does not want to be lost in her eyes. And then ultimately, when she collapses and hits her head off the floor, that is the catalyst for Oz to finally snap out of the restraints he's in, and we get the crazy escape going on. And I mean, I love the camera shot too, where he's coming out of the theater, or the club where everything happened prior, and you see the gentleman putting the eye drops in, and just a camera shot with the gunshot going off. Like, I thought the cinematography for this episode was absolutely phenomenal, and seeing some of the shots go down as you just see what is taking place. I mean, Nick, when you're seeing this all go, and when Oz gets finally away, how do you think this is all going to go at that moment?
So in that moment, I mean, the first thing he does after he breaks free is he goes right to his mom. He starts shooting people, but he goes right to his mom. So I mean, that weird mommy son relationship all the way to the end of the show. I mean, you see it play out. They are bonded in this very, very strange way. But
Yeah.
as you see escape, it's like, okay, well, we know that Sophia and the we know this is going to play out here in the end. That we're not going to their story doesn't end here. And then when we see him take his mother to the hospital in the next part of the scene, it's like, okay, I feel like her part of this story is going to end here in a way. I didn't necessarily think she was going to die in the hospital. I felt like, okay, no, this her main part of the story is kind of going to take a back burner here to wrapping up what happens between Oz and Sophia.
Janelle, how about you?
Same thing. I mean, I think again, like he went right straight to Francis, like immediately, without a thought. Even though she said, I don't know if this was mentioned, like she said, "I hate you."
Yeah.
Like she yelled it out and said, "I hate you," and that tells a sign of just like how much she feels so guilty that her other two sons died, the way that they did. So, but Oz again is still loyal to his mom and got her out of that situation. And like you said, Ken, I love the cinematography as well, because I love a lot of the shots throughout the series that you see, just like different angles and different ways that you're seeing it, through the lens of like either a character or either just like on the side, especially in episode 4, when Sophia was on the side, trying
Yeah.
to get out of that situation. Love that shot. But anyway, yeah, I was really wondering, okay, well, what's next? Because Oz now has his mom. All right, what we gonna do? So
Yeah, I mean, this was kind of a crazy scene, because obviously you see him run to the hospital with Vic and get her taken care of. And then it's like, okay, where do we go from here? Because obviously Sophia's in hot pursuit. She is not going to take this lying down. And Oz has to regroup on the fly, because he knows he doesn't have his empire going. He literally has no leverage to get any support. And he's now become Gotham's most wanted. So it is kind of this interesting dynamic, and to see where both go, because you see Sophia, I want to say calmly, but it was kind of a little shock how this plays out, calls together the coalition that Oz put together of the gangs through Gotham, and literally says, I'm willing to leave and give you this, the entire empire of Gotham, if you bring me Oz. And to see that play went down, Janelle, when you're seeing this go, did you think this was the right call to do?
I think so. I mean, ultimately, Sophia probably just didn't see a way out of like even just her situation and being able to do what she wanted to do. So I thought this was endgame for her. You know, that she just was like, "All right, I give up, but I'm gonna give it to the person who was able to bring me Oz." And it was interesting that she also made that decision, but I wasn't surprised. But it was really interesting to see that like the gangs were like, are you serious? Like, and she yes, she was serious. So yeah.
All right, Nick, how about you?
Yeah, going into that scene and you see all the players at the table, your immediate reaction is that, oh, well, she's gonna make her move to take over everything. But it totally plays out in that different way. That and people have characters have interacted with her and continuously told her like, you don't need to do this if you don't want to do this. You can go do your own thing. And for her character though, she can't. She can't do that. Not until she rids herself of this last burden, the burden that started it all, which was Oz, and she has to see that her version of vengeance through. She has to be able to end him, to end her suffering and move forward in her life. Even though, I mean, there was a whole lot of destruction and chaos and everything else along the way, but again,
Yeah,
we're talking about twisted characters here, so
Yeah.
hey.
yeah, but it plays out though for throwing that gauntlet down because she's saying, well, if somebody takes care of my light work for me, I can finally put this to bed and move on with my life. Meanwhile, Oz does something, and I thought this was very bold of him because one, like I alluded to, he's Gotham public enemy number one amongst the crime underworld. So to go and make a play for the councilman and to go and literally say, I can give you Sophia Falcone, and seeing him show up to see Sebastian Haiti, like that was such a wild play for as I'm watching this go, because literally he's now working somebody else because he works Sophia, he works Salvador, now he's working the councilman again. And to see that this was the dynamic in the play is say, like, listen, I'll give you Sophia. What do I want in return? I want to meet some more of your powerful friends and work his way up the ranks. Janelle, when you're seeing this play out, how do you think this is all going to go?
I thought that was an interesting choice as well. I was really surprised. And it was funny when he was up there and he was pounding
The
the
gavel.
little thing, the gavel. And I was like, oh my goodness. Like, of course he wants to be up there and powerful with the gavel and stuff like that. But, and then I thought of a deeper thought, and I don't know if you guys thought of this as well. I think ultimately, you know, Oz still respects Sophia on a basic level, and I think it kind of plays out towards the end of the finale. I don't know if you guys felt that as well, like that he still cared and still wanted like her to, get to a place where obviously we'll talk about it at the end, but I thought it was very interesting. It was kind of like a tiny line that went through like between that moment and the ending that I saw, that I was like, okay, that seems like a deeper moment than what actually is written. So, but Oz will do anything for power. So
Yeah, great point. I mean, Nick, what do you think about that?
This scene was incredibly smart because if you start looking back through the other episodes, from an official standpoint, a police investigation or some sort of an FBI probe, what did they really have on Oz besides that he was, a BC level player in different, underground gangs? Nothing.
Mm,
Everyone was still looking at the Falcone and Maroney family. So and come to find out, he was the one in power over everything while they were just fighting and trying to, snuff him out. So for him to be able to take this situation where, everything could have pointed to him and spin it in a way where it wasn't even really a spin. It was like, no, when you find the bomb, you'll find out it was in her car. And when you go digging, you're going to find all these people that they're all Falcones and Maronis. So it's like, wow, he just completely got out of it, and in a clean kind of way, because really
yeah.
nothing would tie to him, even though it was all his anyway.
He's a Teflon Don in this. Like nothing he does is getting stuck to him, no matter what. So to see like him escape this, and even to go back to your point, Janelle, too, like I mean, I love that analogy you put out there. I think it's just more of him coming to terms with his own past with Sophia. And like there's that weird honor amongst thieves between them.
Mhm.
Like, like he respects what she does because he understands. He's like, listen, hey, you had it rough. You're taking it out. I understand it. I've also had a rough life too. So like there's that kind of weird connection there. So I think that was kind of more on that level. But I mean, it's a great point you bring up too, because they have had a very unique relationship as business partners and frenemies, I guess we can call them, throughout this entire series. And to see how it's ultimately coming down to the showdown we have, because once Oz leaves the courtroom, he goes to his car. Vic is not there because Vic got a call from an unlikely source. And it was somebody that tipped him off that there was a bounty on his head, a gentleman by the name of Link, who was going. I was very surprised at his character because I wasn't sure where he was going with this. Because as he comes out of the courtroom, Vic is nowhere to be found. He was called away. Oz is completely outmanned and outgunned and gets taken away. So you're thinking, okay, he's been set up. The end is coming in some sort for somebody. Meanwhile, you almost have Sophia celebrating this as she sets fire to the whole Falcone mansion. And I mean, super chat, let us know what you're thinking about this as well, too. But starting with Janelle, I mean, when you're seeing this play out, what is your reaction to this?
I was like, girl, why are you burning down your whole home? I mean, but I understand the significance of it because, once she established that, hey, I want to get out of Gotham, why do I need this stuff? And it was interesting that she put all the clothes on the bed and started to, deal with them first and then set the whole house on fire. But it kind of just tells of her just being done with the Falcone family, and again, there's an interesting thing that happens at the end of the finale, but we'll talk about it. But I thought it was again like just a good character moment for her, to say like, listen, I'm finished. What this house is nothing to me, and I don't have the Falcone family anymore. So why am I, And then you can also see she threw something or something at the family photo before the
Yep.
whole thing went up on flames. So, yep.
All right, Nick, how about you?
This scene was incredibly freeing because you could just see her feeling that sense of free. But as you move into the next scene, you realize it's like a football player celebrating before the play is over, and then ultimately it all falls apart. And what we learn is that her focus shifted too much to revenge, and business is business, and the Penguin is playing business.
Yeah. I mean, this was just such a unique scene to see because, yeah, this is the first time like Sophia really felt like herself, I think, since she got home from Arkham. Like she truly, exorcised the ghosts that had been haunting her for so long. So as she's getting ready to leave and start her life over, she pulls up to the airport for the private plane. And lo and behold, there's a gang waiting for her with Oz in tow. And it's kind of a very odd standoff because you see the one leader there was like ready to say, like, here he is, let's have the keys. And then all of a sudden Oz smirks like he knows what's going on. And sure enough, Link leads a little bit of a revolution against them and they start taking out some bodies. And when this moment happened, I mean, I was shocked at it. Janelle, what was your reaction?
I was shocked too. I was like, oh my goodness, what is happening right now? But I mean, again, not surprising because of the conversation between Link and Victor happened before. I knew something was fishy and was about to happen. But again, what a very good executed scene.
Yeah. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, like I was echoing before, business is business, and Link wanted to do business, whereas the families, the people in charge, they just wanted to stay on top and kind of stay in their own lanes, and they had power, so they were fine. But it was like, it's one of those scenarios where you just have someone in a corporate office who just wants more. They're striving for more. And you see that now in these crime families where it's like, hey, I can do more, I can be more, but you're kind of holding me back. And you're not thinking big enough in a sort of way. And Oz is thinking big, and he's willing to put, his support into other people and give that confidence to him. And that's exactly what you saw here was Link kind of saw what Victor had become and was like, hey, I'm the same thing. I can be like that. And Oz is someone who's really trying to rally people to work together, and everyone here doesn't want to do that. So business is business, and I'm willing to do business. And for Sophia, this is where she just realized she kind of overplayed her hand, where it was like, yeah, I just want this revenge, and then I'm out, I'm done. And it's like, it's like every mob movie ever. You're never out. You're never out until you're in the ground.
Yeah. No, well said. Because in this moment she knows that she's lost. And when Oz takes her away and starts, explaining about how he got him to win, this all harkens back to a theme that he's been saying literally, I think, since episode 1, about how he wanted to be Rex. He wanted to be that gangster in this neighborhood that was always respected and always, loved, because he's the one who elevated everybody around him. At least that's his interpretation of it. I mean, obviously, as the season has gone on, it's not exactly been the case, so to speak, but it's been one to see how Oz has tried twisting that in his own vision. That, he's now giving opportunities to people that haven't had opportunities. And you see a lot of the old guard of Gotham get taken out by the new, heirs in waiting. And to see how that plays out, I mean, that was a wild scene for me to process, because it's like, this harkens back to everything that he's been saying, that he wanted to be, as weird as this sounds, the symbol of hope, almost like the Batman is to the citizens of Gotham. I mean, that's the way I took it. Nick, how about you?
No, I 100% agree. I mean, again, we being the viewers know it's a twisted vision, but you totally can understand it though, where it's like, he's not going to be the big corporate businessman. He's not going to be the Wayne family who's got a big charity and this and that. But he does want to help people, and he found a way to do it. And as this episode went on, he really leaned into those type of characteristics and the business side of things. He wasn't in this for revenge. He wasn't in this to, get back at people. He had done enough of that, and now it was time for him to get back to building this empire. So as this scene played out, where you think it's the end of Sophia, it totally makes sense that it's not. It's like, no, he harkens back to the courtroom, like, hey, you need to get yourself clean. You can't be the one with all this, blood on your hands. And that's exactly how this plays out. He disappears into the night, a la Batman, and Sophia is there to take the blame for it all.
Yeah. Janelle, how about you?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, that whole scene. I mean, I really thought that Sophia was going to be a goner when he was driving her. But again, the comment I said before, it seems like, Oz still has a slight loyalty to her and understanding her. So again, that whole thing, I'm thinking about that as he's driving and stuff like that. And then of course when they stop and she's near like the water, she's just kind of contemplating her life and everything as she shuts her eyes, and then the police come. And then it's kind of like that sense of dread again, because obviously we saw what happens in Arkham, that horrible Arkham place, the hospital, and you still kind of feel bad for Sophia, even though like she did some questionable and horrible things. You still feel bad for her, because at the end of the day, like all she wanted was just, to either to, her family to respect her, for these mobsters to respect her, and then what does it get her? Back to Arkham.
Yeah. I mean, it's a tragic story, because you can definitely sympathize with her character and then everything she's gone through. And then to see where Oz sets her up, because we all think that she's going to get killed. And then, once again, the cinematography here, getting that extreme close up of her eyes as she's taking that final breath and exhales. And then all of a sudden, the helicopter light shines down on her, the GCPD shows up and takes her away. So at this moment, like, wait, she survives, but now she's getting pinned yet again for a crime. But in this case, she did. I mean, to a degree. I mean, the car is under her name. I mean, it is, statute of limitations and all that. So, I mean, it has to be one of those kind of situations, but it is one that it plays out perfectly. And like Pat is saying in the chat, Sophia got dealt a terrible hand in life, but she still decided to play those cards, and that is an absolute truth, because she could have walked away at any point and nobody would have faulted her. But when she's on that quest for vengeance, and Oswald is literally the reason she got in trouble. I mean, not necessarily her dad, even though he was the main factor, but somebody snitched out that she was talking to the reporter, and that was Oz, because Oz has only loyalty to Oz as it all plays out. So now his grand scheme of getting in good with the councilman and working his way up the ladder is now taking place. He goes to the hospital to celebrate with his mom and Vic, and when he gets there, oh, what a scene in that moment. He's ready to celebrate with some whiskey, and his mom is just staring off into space. And at this point, we find out that she is in a catatonic space, that she suffered a major stroke that has left her more or less brain dead. I mean, Janelle, when you see this scene play out, what is your reaction?
Heartbreaking yet again. I knew it was serious when she fell, when she was with Oz. So I was not surprised that this was going to happen. And I think again, Oz has that, once again, that loyalty to his mom and trying to get her help and assistance. And he tries to lash out at the nurse. I was like, the nurse didn't do anything. Like, literally, she had a really bad stroke. And she's not going to be the same person as, as she was. And she had those memory problems and the dementia. And as I don't know if you guys ever got into the science of it. Like, dementia really does tear away at the brain. So I'm not surprised that this woman becomes pretty much like a vegetable, and that was it. This was it.
Yeah, Nick, how about you?
Yeah, if you look back to the scene where before she gets injured, and you think about the emotions that she's exuding, and just letting it all kind of go in a way, like she's been holding on to that grief. I mean, you would hold on to that grief for the rest of your life, but she's holding on to it in such a way because she didn't have her own son killed. I mean, think about what we just said here. She's holding on to grief because her two sons died because the third one killed them, but she held on to all that because she allowed the third one to live. Because what mother could ever kill their son, even though their son killed the other two? So just, it's not surprising that she ended up with some sort of a brain disease. She very well could have inflicted it on herself, just trying to hold on to that for all those years, and then to finally just lash out and just say everything you've wanted to say for all that time, and then in a way you might feel free, and then to just completely just lose yourself after that. It's a tragic story.
Yeah, no, it completely is. I mean, I think it was due to Dr. Rush's, um, working with her. I think might have unlocked something that unleashed all that trauma that might have been the catalyst for causing it. I mean, on top of the head blow. I mean, there's so many different factors involved. We don't know, but we just know what effect this has on Oz, because the one person that he's been trying to get approval for this entire time, he now can't. And this is his ultimate moment to celebrate, but yet the one person that it matters the most to can't react to him. And this literally sets him on such a weird spiral that when we go to a scene where him and Victor are sitting by the bridge, and Oz is sitting there talking about what's next, and Vic is saying, how much you're like family to me. This is the point where I had a feeling this was going to happen. I mentioned this on the ODPH this week. And sure enough, Oz snaps and kills Vic. Nick, what is your thoughts to this scene? Chat, super chat, let us know, too.
Well, Ken, this is the scene that the Penguin, who has been throughout this entire story, has been, just his whole mindset is focused on three simple things. And you're going to love this, Ken. All right. He's focusing on hustle, loyalty, and respect
Ba, ba,
throughout
ba,
the
ba.
whole series, though. And he sees that in Vic, and it's just like, wow. But then in this moment and throughout this whole episode, the Penguin learns that he has to take this mindset from the dark side of John Cena, which would be the CM Punk. I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to make money. And having these people in my life that are so important to me, I can't survive. I can't do it. So I must to to move on, remove these potential burdens from my path forward, and to just absolutely crush the soul of us and of Victor. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Just quickly, Alan Dunford chiming in. Shout out to Alan Dunford. Pocus Hocus is on sale on the Kickstarter right now. It's such an incredible show. Fully agree. Janelle, I mean, let's break down that scene. How did that impact you?
I was screaming at the television. I said, "He is not going to do this. He is not going to do this." But you know what? When he said, "I can't take you with me," and ultimately he can't. The Penguin kind of runs solo. Even though we met Victor at a time when he was trying to jack the car and everything, like we knew, and ultimately, and my mom actually pointed this out too. Oz tried to kill Victor before, and he said, "Wait, wait, wait, like I can help you." And so this is again that end game of like I have to be alone. I have to do this on my own. I have to keep rising up in Gotham City by myself. And when he kills him, it's just and then he robs him. He takes his money and then throws his ID in the water. I was like, really? It felt like Victor had no value at all to Oz. And it really crushed my soul because I was like, he helped you out so much throughout this whole entire series, and to just have that moment in 5 minutes and then he just walks away from Victor, it was heartbreaking to me.
Well, he's also the one person that could tie Oz to everything. Because realistically, what could you pin on Oz at this point in the story?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
No one's going to
Yeah.
believe anything Sophia says because she's been in and out of the hospital, and the
Mhm.
car was theirs, and the people were hers. So Victor would be the one that could be the one to flip on him one day.
Yeah. Where I took this was when he started referencing family, I immediately brought it back to how Oz interprets that. And I think he's only seen his mom as his family and
Hmm.
nobody else. And in a weird sense, because it's Oz, and you see how something can set him off instantly. This was like the comment that was made to him in the first episode, where he was insulted by the head of the Falcone family, the new one. Alberto insulted him. This set him off that he wanted to kill Vic, and that anything that he had, that goodwill, completely went out the window, because if he sees in his mind him getting insulted or him having a threat, he eliminates them. And this is what I think Vic accidentally did, where he'd been so loyal to him. And it's a heartbreaking scene because you know how much Oz meant to Vic. But like Janelle, like you touched upon, it was like Vic meant nothing to Oz. And sure enough, we get that because in this scene, I think we had the full emergence of the Penguin without a question. Like, this is the one we know from the comics. This is the one that's willing to do anything to stop anybody that tries getting in his way. And to touch upon what Vic was saying too, or Nick was saying, Vic could be somebody that could rat on him and turn him in. And when you have all these factors going on, Oz just does not want to deal with it. So to take him off the board, I mean, it's heartbreaking because he thought like maybe, just maybe there'd be like a shed of decency in Oz, but not so much.
Well, and if you think about it, like whole part of the story was getting people to rise up against, the powers that be that don't want to, get things done, get things moving again. And eventually one day Vic very well could realize that as well. Like, hey, I got here because, I was following someone and now I want to rise above. So how do I do that? So he taught him that lesson. And one day it may have clicked in his head, right? Like, oh, well, he's got to go. So the Penguin, he was kind of you know, a liar in that. It's just like, oh yeah, this is how we're gonna do it, and then right at the end, like, no, I'm just doing it for me.
Yeah. He's like, that's not going to work for me. So he has to get everybody, in to fall to what he wants to, and that is he is going to be the absolute king of Gotham. And if you're not going to follow the lead, then you're going to get taken off the board. Because as we see, he does set up a certain base of operations a little bit. He now has a penthouse, and he now has a very big view of Gotham from what was, I'm presuming, will be the Iceberg Lounge 2.0. And we do see that his mom is there and getting the best care she can at this time. But then there's the scene that closes everything out. And we do see that his girlfriend, love interest, if you will, is now dressed up as his mom. And I thought this was a little weird, but makes sense for Oz, I guess. But I'll start with you, Janelle. I mean, when you're seeing this play out and the final dance, what is your reaction?
I mean, he's ultimately grieving his mom, even though she's physically still there. You saw the little tear that ran down her face. Like, she's in that vegetative state, but Oz still wants that satisfaction somewhere. So his girlfriend dresses up as Francis, had the whole hair going on, the get up, the dress, and everything, and was giving him, that verbal satisfaction. Like, yeah, you did good. Yep, you're on top, and like this is, and of course had the music playing and everything. And I love Oz's get up as well. We see the top hat, which was referenced from the last episode. So he got what he wanted. I mean, it seems like we're on the up and up with where we're going to follow Oz next. So yeah, but that was an interesting choice though, because I was just like, why did she dress up like that? Oh, okay, that's mommy issues, as Nick said, for Oz.
100%. Nick, how about you?
Yeah, so Thanos lost everything to get what he wanted, and then once he did, he just wanted to retire. Oz lost everything to get what he wanted, and what is he going to do? He ain't going to go quietly into the night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mommy issues there.
Yeah.
I mean, just even hearing the monologue between them as they're having their dance was like, oh boy, there's a lot to unpack here that I don't think Gotham's ready for what's coming, even though the parting shot was perfect for this. And that is over the skyline of Gotham, a certain warning went over, and we saw the image of the bat signal. And that's how it ends. I mean, I thought that was perfect at what they needed to do. We didn't need to see Robert Pattinson's character, even though if he showed up, it would have been cool. But I think what they wanted to do is really establish what this character was going to be. And now the question I think I have to pose to everybody, super chat, along with the panel here. Are we going to go a season 2, or where do you think this universe goes now? Starting with Janelle.
I mean, of course, I would always love a season 2, but I think it's up to, again, the writers and the ratings, and if it makes sense. I never want them to have a season 2 and it doesn't make sense. If Matt Reeves, who is going to direct the Batman Part 2, if he feels that season 2 might not serve it, I would be totally fine. Just like Ken, what you said before, like, let's take our time with this universe. Let's figure out what would work for this Gotham universe. So, I mean, it would be nice, but if we don't get it, it's fine. We will still look forward to the Batman 2. And then also, I mean, I know we don't speak rumors a lot here, but there's a lot of rumblings of, other possible spinoffs as well, that might take that place of like the Penguin season 2. But I mean, of course, I would love it, but I mean, if it doesn't happen, it's fine.
Nick, how about you?
I don't need a season two, and I think the ending kind of shows that as well to the audience. So if we look back to the movie, the Batman, the Batman starts off, he's fighting, street level thugs, and by the end of the movie, he's at a completely different place and worrying about a completely different level of crime. And then if you start with the Penguin in that movie, he's in a completely different place, and at the end of this series, he has elevated himself to that same level of the Batman where he would need to be involved in investigating and working, to stop the Penguin. Whereas at the beginning of the series, we saw him doing all this stuff, this and that. And as cool as Batman is, he's not going to be at every single situation. He's not going to be able to, help everyone and everything. So to see the bat signal at the end, it's like, oh, the Penguin is now at that level where Batman would need to step in and get involved. And so to knowing that we're not going to get Robert Pattinson Batman in a TV show, I'd rather just see the Penguin move back into the movie and be the next big bad in a second movie. And then you could do the same thing, and I'd be cool with that. You could introduce a character in the second Batman movie. You could do a season to kind of build them up and then do the same thing. It'd be a pretty basic formula, but it worked once. Why not try it again?
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing about it too. I mean, I think if they have a great story for it, by all means. And I think that you can do it because the one thing that made me think they're going to go sequel, they didn't kill off Sophia.
Mm.
Mm.
And we didn't even talk about that. What happened in that?
Oh
final
yeah,
movie.
yeah, we didn't get into
all right,
that.
let's go there now.
Yeah, so we had that final moment where Sophia is completely lost in the hospital, just completely not. You can just tell, like, there's just no one home in that moment. And Rush comes in to bring the mail, and there's a black envelope from Selena Kyle. And then Rush drops that line of, your half sister. Or Selena, she's claiming to be your half sister. And that completely perks her up. Janelle, I've taken over this podcast. What did you think when Sophia came back to life and was like, oh?
I was so surprised that they were going to do that. I mean, I knew at some point, I had, listened to other podcasts and things like that, that might have been one of the factors of, them possibly meeting. And that actually would be very interesting to see, like even possibly in the Batman 2, if they do ever do like a Penguin season 2, that would be great, like them teaming up together, because she can hear Selena Kyle's perspective on her father and all of that, and then she can hear what Sophia has been through and what she had to deal with and everything. So, and notice they didn't even show the letter. They didn't show the letter as she was reading it. So I'm really interested to see what that letter actually said, to get her really excited to talk to her.
Yeah, I mean, two characters that have very similar issues with their family. So Ken.
I was blown away by that one too. I mean, it maybe just didn't register at first, but I was like, if they want to go in there and do this, like, I'm all for it. And I think they would give a nice story to Selena in the meantime for whatever they're going to do with Batman for Batman 2. And I think that if they wanted to do this, I mean, this is one thing that doing these spin-off shows can really help with, is if they want to expand the story. And not saying we got to do like a full season, but even if you want to do like a 3-part episode or something, and you want to just expand a story like this, you can do it. And I think the Selena factor really was a nice touch, and it really added something to this character, because I think for where we're going to go with Sophia is the fact they kept her alive. She's going to come back in some way, somehow. Now, is she going to be the big bad of Batman 2? Or probably not. But I do think that she's going to play a factor in some way, because obviously there's still going to be a crime family involved in Gotham. Now, whether it's going to be all Colin Farrell or now a rival coming in there, I think there's a lot of different ways they can move with this. But I would love to see them expand a little bit with Sophia's character now. And obviously, if they want to introduce some more of the rogues, like, I think personally, I would love to see a Harvey Dent show up and really go somewhere. Because I think if you did a courtroom drama show in this universe, I think it would be great. I don't think you need to have him be fully Two-Face, but I think you can do some stuff here. Like that would be the one character that would jump out to me. Chat, super chat, if you got to pick, throw it in there if you want to see somebody else in a spinoff. But I think ultimately, if we got season 2, which I know Pad put in the chat too, he got a quote from Colin Farrell that I will read up here. And it's quote, if there's a great idea for season 2 and the writing was really muscular and is strong or stronger than the page than it was the first season, of course I would do it. So that is coming right from Colin Farrell directly. So if that's the case, I mean, I'm all for it if it matches the quality of the show. Because the only argument is we've now set such a high bar. Can we go back to it? And I think they can, but you got to have the perfect story because it's almost like where do you go from here other than the Penguin's going to be running loose in Gotham unless you wanted to do something like he becomes a government agent, kind of like what they did in the most recent series for DC Comics. Like that could be a fun take if they wanted to. But I think that there is some ways to do a couple different things. So, and I mean, Pat's even saying too in the chat, he thinks Dent comes in Batman season 2 or movie 2 as a result of the Penguin and will play in season 2. I mean, I would love to see it because I think that now you're expanding this universe of Gotham. I think that's the main point of the show too, is now you've shown you can tell some Gotham stories without Batman involved, and then the public is going to turn out for it because I know the numbers have been very good for the show. I presume the finale is going to do gangbuster numbers as well. And I think ultimately we are going to have more spinoffs from this universe. And I mean, me as a greedy fan, I would love to see more Colin Farrell as Penguin. But if we get more of the world of Gotham, I'm not going to complain. So that being said, I'll just go around to the panel, let everybody know where they can find you, and final thoughts on this season in general, starting with Janelle.
This season was amazing. Like I mentioned before, the writing, the directing, the acting, everything was just great. I had a really fun time with the Penguin, and I'm really interested to see what they're going to do. Either if it's going to be a season 2, or it's going to go directly just into the Batman. Either way, I'm happy. I'm glad that I got to cover the series throughout the entire thing on Nerd Initiative. And where you can find me, I am Jan's Comic Space on TikTok, on Instagram, and yeah, those are the 2 platforms that I usually use. Oh, and X. So you can, Google anywhere.
No, definitely go follow Janelle. We do have links in the liner note of this YouTube show, so you can definitely find out what's going on with her. You definitely don't want to miss her article following in about the finale here, because I know it's going to be absolutely putting the perfect bookend onto the series because she's been crushing it, reviewing every episode on nerdinitiative.com. So, Nick, why don't you tell everybody what's going on with you and final thoughts on the Penguin?
My final thoughts on the Penguin are twofold. One, this show's going to be up for awards. And I think what that does is it puts a lot of pressure on a lot of people. It puts a lot of pressure on Matt Reeves to really put together an amazing Batman 2. It puts a lot of pressure on James Gunn. He's trying to build out this DC universe with all these other characters, and they've kind of talked about it being not connected. Some things will be, some things won't be, but we know this stuff is good. We've got a movie and now we had a TV show that were good. So it's like if these things for James Gunn come out at the gate and they kind of fumble or whatever, people are gonna be like, well, what are we doing here? Give it to Matt Reeves. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
It puts a lot of pressure on Robert Pattinson because he wasn't involved in this at all. So when he rolls back into the next movie, he's like, shoot, I gotta up my game. And it puts a lot of pressure on Disney. Disney's done multiple shows and none of them have reached this kind of level. And it shows that you can take a character who's been in a movie and you could do a show and be really strong, really successful, and elevate that character. And in Disney, they're not going to do this style of show. They're not going to do things this gritty, and that's fine. You don't need to. But Disney Plus shows in general, we haven't seen this level of success, and I think that's one of the things that's been missing from all of Disney Plus, not just Marvel and Star Wars and everything as well. You need that kind of prestige TV show to really highlight that you're doing premium TV instead of just kind of going through the motions with it. So that all being said, you can tune in Thursday nights and see me on Wrestling Night Live with Ken M, with Rich. Janelle, you're welcome to join us as well if you want to talk some wrestling. We always want people coming in and dropping those elbows on everybody.
Yes, absolutely. The door is always open for that. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff going on with Wrestling Night Live. And because it's late night, I will just keep it actually a little short and sweet. Anything ODPH, you can find it at odphpodcast.com. If you're new to Nerd Initiative, we love our QR codes here. So you want to make sure you click on that. But more importantly, you want to make sure you click on every Wednesday starting at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nobody does comic book reviews like the Nerd Initiative Bullpen. You'll see reviews from Janelle, myself. Nick could even be dropping in some videos too. We haven't even discussed that yet. So stay tuned, ... But we got a lot of stuff coming for 2024 and beyond. So you got to make sure that you check out nerdinitiative.com, the home of pop culture positivity. And as you've seen all night, we have a QR code in the corner. There's a lot of exclusive content coming to our YouTube channel. So you want to make sure you subscribe to that, because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming in 2024 and beyond from your home of pop culture positivity. So that being said, on behalf of Nick and Janelle, my awesome panel tonight, and you watching and the chat tonight making a lot of noise, we want to say thank you for checking out the Nerd Initiative special.